It was mankind's first giant step when 50 years ago the Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man in space, spending just under 2 hours orbiting the Earth. But what has 5 decades of human space travel achieved since that first historic flight? Man has walked on the moon, but no further. The expensive and increasingly risky space shuttle is retiring, and President Obama has cancelled plans for Americans to return to the moon. Our science correspondent Tom Clark looks back at the last 50 years and asks where space exploration is headed next.
Selected from a short list of 20, Yuri Gagarin was handpicked to become the Soviet Union's first cosmonaut and mankind's first representative in space. But his ultimate mission took place in almost total secrecy. Success so important to the Soviets, just a few cameras and VIPs saw him off. Released to coincide with tomorrow's anniversary, a new documentary contains the original mission audio. Gagarin's single orbit lasted just 108 minutes, but by the time he parachuted back, his achievement had changed the world forever.
He's a hugely inspirational character. From a test pilot perspective, from my background, I can appreciate what he was going through. I also think as we look back on this event, it will become more and more profound the further that we travel into space. We'll always look back to Yuri Gagarin and think that was our first step, that was mankind's first steps off our own planet.
So where has Gagarin's pioneering flight taken us? The 1960s race for the moon began as soon as Gagarin returned to the Earth. By the 1970s, men were living in space, Americans in Skylab, the Soviets in Salyut space stations. The 1980s saw the launch of the Space Shuttle, the first reusable spacecraft. With the Cold War over, the 1990s saw Americans and Russians join hands in space. Here Atlantis docks with the Mir space station. And with the new millennium came the launch of the first commercial spacecraft. But 50 years on, what is man's future in space? Since we walked on the moon in 1969, we've travelled no further. Our current outpost, the International Space Station, has long been criticised for achieving very little for the billions it costs to run each year. Is space best explored by satellites and robots?
I think robots have taught us a lot more about the solar system than the manned missions, the human missions. Although, which is the greater achievement is a sort of a different question. We've seen further with robots, but we've perhaps been more inspired by human missions.
The Cold War drive to conquer space has gone. Now dwindling budgets mean manned missions to Mars or beyond are decades away at best. Just as well, Gagarin can still inspire 50 years on.